What's the bloody... Aha. Okay. Looks like I'm live. Well, oh my God. No. My bloody web. Oh, I can't have this. I can't have this. My webcam going. Oh my goodness. Do you know what? I'm just having the most horrendous Mercury retrograde. Look at this. How is this? Oh, this is just beyond annoying. Okay. How am I gonna... I want to share my screen with you. This hasn't worked as I would hope. Where's the Zoom interface as well? It's gone. I'm glad this is unlisted, but it's supposed to go straight to members. Right. So what I do is close that screen down, go here. Aha. Now I'm live on YouTube. Let me just see if I could. So this is supposed to be for George Santos. This is for members. At least it's unlisted, so it's not going live now. Oh, I cannot describe to you how frustrating trying to set these things up are. Anyway, never mind. I'm just going to get on with it. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try not to complain too much. And we're going to get on with this. If the camera goes a bit weird, and I go kind of a bit of Andy Warhol style, this is just something that's been happening in meetings, and it's, you know, Mercury retrograde, and it's just been so unbelievably annoying. I've been trying to configure this. I'm still not sure if this is actually completely properly configured, but at least it's going to be set to unlisted. It should be going directly to members, but at least it's not publicly live like what happened last time. So anyway, so at the moment, camera seems to be behaving itself so far. Says I'm live. Let's go with it. Honest, this stuff, you wouldn't believe how stressful it is. Getting this stuff up. It's so stressful. Anyway, we're here. So let's talk about George Santos. Yeah. So this is for my playlist, just in case I publish this later. But this is my playlist, which is called Secrets, Lies, and Secrets, Fame and Infamy. That's what it's called. And so as you saw, who did I do last week? It was what's his name? See, look at that whole kind of thing glitching. McCarthy, there, so it's kind of thrown me off. So I did McCarthy, which was supposed to be for the members last week, accidentally went live. This time it should be just for you guys, but just in case I publish it later, because obviously George Santos is quite the man of the moment at the moment, infamous most certainly proven liar, and now was it congressman, you know, to be the lackey vote for McCarthy, and all of the cray and the subterfuge and sabotaged and all of the disgraceful stuff that we see going on. But anyway, look, this is his chart. Now, I had to look him up, of course, and according to Wikipedia, and they've got all of his names listed there and the names of his mother and father, so I think we've pretty much got them all. So he was allegedly born. Now, I say allegedly, I don't want to be unfair. There is so much of this man that has proven to be untrue, where you have to take absolutely everything with a pinch of salt. However, it does seem that he is born in America, which would make him American. But his parents are originally from Brazil, but everyone is from everywhere, as we know, particularly in the United States, everyone is from everywhere. So I don't want anyone to think that this is any kind of prejudice thing or whatever. We're just trying to establish the facts with this guy. But from what I understand, Brazilian parentage, first generation American, born here, allegedly has dual citizenship. All right, so we've covered that. So he was born on the 22nd of July, 1988, which actually makes him born in the year of the dragon. And dragons can be very bombastic, by the way. In Chinese mythology, dragons are wonderful. Everyone wants a dragon baby, etc. And they're very popular and very auspicious. But let me tell you something: when the dragon thing goes to the dark side, oh my goodness, they can be outrageous. Dragons can be outrageous. And so 1988 is year of the dragon. Anyway, so I just thought I'd mingle that in because when we look at the chart, we'll see. So here we are. Here we have his chart. Now, as usual, I've gone for the time of midday. Why have I gone for the time of midday? When it comes to people that attain high office, particularly in regards to government, the sun has to be in a pretty strong house. Yeah. So when the sun is in the 9th house, the 10th house, 11th house, these are robust, strong houses for the sun. These people are normally seeking high office as well. They gravitate to the limelight. They gravitate to being seen in what I would call the greenhouse of life, the glass house. Government, sun deals with government anyway, along with Saturn, but it deals with the leadership roles, the star roles, the CEOs, the this, the that, the ones that the movers and shakers, particularly in politics, but CEOs and leaders of all kinds. Yeah. So the reason why I put 12 midday is because it is so often that, now it's not always the case, but when you don't know a person's birth time, but they are well-known, famous, or infamous, put the time at midday, puts the sun in a high house, because these are people that will naturally gravitate to having some kind of name or fame. It's just an energy thing. Now, it could turn out, we find out his true birth time, and it could be something else, but at least the planets, from what I can see, are, they will be in the correct sign. So I can still read the planets from the sign placement. Okay, so assuming 12 midday or thereabouts is right, this would make Santos a Virgo rising. Now, you notice there's no planet here. Now, when houses are empty, it doesn't mean that the house isn't working. It just means there's not emphasis. Yes, there's not emphasis per se on the first house or of the personality per se. Doesn't mean that people who don't have planets in the first house don't have personality. Of course they do, but it just means there's not that extra emphasis in the body. So as you see, his planets are quite spread out. And there are already things in his chart that I'm noticing that I find interesting, but particularly what could be his 4th house over here. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So what do we see? Now, one of the most obvious things, if we just do some simple maths here, we just, as you can see, there's 12 boxes, 12 houses, and there's 12 signs of the zodiac. However, in Vedic astrology, the 12 houses are also seen as the birthing process. So the first house deals with the body overall, but it particularly deals with the top of the head. Yeah, the top of the head, because that normally comes out first. Then what happens is you have the second house, yeah, which is associated with Taurus, and that's from the eyebrows down to the neck. And then you've got the third house, which is associated with Gemini, deals with the hands, arms, action, all of that kind of stuff. And then you've got the fourth house, which deals with the upper torso, etc., all the way around until you reach the 12th house. Now, these, what is, the houses contain a certain energy of the signs, and the signs contain certain energy of the houses. So even though he's a Virgo, so we see here 1, 2, 3, 4, this fourth house is under the influence of Sagittarius, yeah, which is ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter is the fourth house lord and the seventh house lord. Fourth house deals with real estate and the mother, yeah, and all things domestic and the motherland. And the seventh house is anyone that's not us, relationships, etc., all of those kind of things. Yeah. So although the sign is Sagittarius, which is technically the 9th sign of the zodiac, this is speaking about the heart chakra, the chest of Santos. Let me just put my phone. Oh my goodness, typical, isn't it? Let me just put my phone on airplane so I can't be, right, there we are. Sorry, interruptions. So this will be speaking about Santos, his heart chakra, his sense of well-being, comfort. Fourth house also deals with luxuries and stuff like that, education, etc., those kind of things. But let's focus on the second house first. Now, there is something called Bhavat Bhavam, which is known in Vedic astrology, which is that the relationship and the distance between the houses also gives us insight. So if the first house is the body, anything second to a house is the nourishment of that house and what it symbolizes. So that the second house, yeah, which here is next to the first, is the nourishment of what? The body. This is why the second house also deals with family, yeah? But it not only deals with family, it deals with food, drink, speech, education, particularly kindergarten, stuff like that, rudimentary education, early education. It deals with our wealth, our money, our assets, and our values. Yeah, this is a very important thing. Second house deals with values, family value, and self-value as well as how we get our needs met, etc., and stuff like that. It's a house of resources. So the second now, the first 4 houses actually represent childhood. 1, 2, 3, 4. Childhood, yeah. And then houses 5, 6, 7, and 8 represent adulthood and how we begin to manifest ourselves. Oh, look at that. My camera's just gone Andy Warhol. Typical. And then houses 9, 10, 11, and 12 represent outward manifestations in the world. I'm back. Sorry, folks, for this chopping up, but Mercury is still retrograde. 3 days to go until he's direct. Hopefully, my camera is going to stop playing up by that point. So, but anyway, you could look at the cursor and you could see the screen. So if we look here at the second house, there's already issues here, which I notice. Yeah. So here we see the moon and here we see Pluto. Yeah. What's the moon? The moon represents the mind overall. Yeah. The moon is our egoic self, the one that helps us understand who we are this lifetime. So me talking to you, I know that I'm me because of my moon. You know you are you because of your moon. The sun also represents the ego as well, but it represents the soul, the pure direction and manifestation of the soul this lifetime. Yeah, it's part of the divine, where we're showing up in the world in our highest sense. So the moon represents the mind and the mechanism of the mind, the emotions, our instincts, how we respond. The moon, pardon me, also represents the mother. Yeah. So here in this kind of technique, which I'm going to start referring to as 4-dimensional astrology, it's essentially, even though we're looking at a 2-dimensional thing here, it works in 4 dimensions at least, because not only can I see Santos and his proclivities and his personality, I can also look at his mother, at his father, at his career, brothers and sisters, if he has them. I think he's got a sister, actually, when I looked up on Google. Not looked him up on Wikipedia. Yeah. So, and this is how also as well how I get into my client's charts. Obviously, when I'm with a client, it's different. We're relating backwards and forwards, but obviously Santos is not here because he's busy with his skullduggery. Yeah. So here, so the moon represents our instincts. Yeah. Now remember, there are enmities, friendships, and neutralities between the planets. So I'll just quickly revise for everyone. Sun, Moon, Mars, and Jupiter are all friends, and they all do well in each other's signs, except Mars technically debilitates in the sign of the Moon, his friend, sign of Cancer, but is yet delighted. Pretty good for the person, can cause issues with the siblings. Saturn, who I call balloon popper, Mercury and Venus, they're all friends and they do well in each other's signs, except Venus technically debilitates in the sign of Virgo, which belongs to her best friend Mercury. She's delighted, but not as delighted as Mars. Tends to cause issues in relationships and with women in particular. I won't go into all the details of it, but if you have this particular Venus debilitated, you will understand what I'm talking about. But Venus is still delighted as well. So here now, there's a funny thing going on. Now, Moon and Venus are very similar. They're both feminine planets. They both represent the archetypes of women. Venus is every kind of girl to woman on planet Earth, and Moon deals with matriarchs in particular, particularly women that have had children. So these are those feminine factors. Sun, Mars, and Jupiter are all male planets. Yeah, so they represent the male energy, and Saturn and Mercury are essentially gender neutral. Why? Mercury represents very young children that are prepubescent, and essentially girls and boys, in terms of the look, are more similar than they are different once puberty hits, yeah, which is also associated with Mars, puberty up to the age of 25. Saturn is gender neutral because it is associated with advanced age. So if you think, it's not very often that you'll hear of octogenarians still having a rampant sex life. I mean, of course it can happen, but this one often needs assistance, shall we say, at that point. So again, if you think of one's grandparents, for example, if they're still alive, grandmother, grandfather, you'll notice that there's a neutrality in a way that comes to them, where they're more kind of blended. So this is why these planets are considered more gender neutral, but they're at either extremes of the age spectrum. But that's important. Anyway, going back to the second house. So the moon represents the mind overall, but who is the moon with? So one of the things I'm always saying is that planets are people. Yeah, planets are people. They represent concrete manifestations in our life, as in family members, bosses, etc., events and happenings, because they have bodies. Yeah, planets have bodies. They're called grahas. The only ones who don't have bodies are the nodes of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, but they are given the dignity of half planet because they are so powerful. They're smoky, but they deal with fate and destiny for everyone and everything on planet Earth that has consciousness. And literally, companies, anything that's got a kind of consciousness to it can be governed and influenced by Rahu and Ketu and the planets. Anyway, I digress. So the moon represents the mother, but also as well, look, Pluto is here. Now, what is Pluto? Pluto represents what? The underworld. Pluto is the Roman name for Hades, god of the underworld, yeah, according to Greek legend and myth. He was the one that stole away Persephone and eventually had to give her back, and there was a treaty, and Persephone could spend spring, summer, and fall with her mother, but every winter she had to return to him, who had become her husband. Persephone was queen of the underworld. So what does this mean? When Pluto is with the moon, it is very intense. What we need to understand is this, is that the moon is the most sensitive part in the chart. It's the most easily influenced. Second to that will probably be Mercury, yeah, who is considered the love child of the moon. Anyway, here the moon is technically in an enemy sign. Why? Venus and Moon, although very similar, are not technically friends. When they go in each other's signs, they can become a little bit indulgent, so we say. So, for example, when, say, like Venus is in the sign of Cancer, this can make someone, it can make them an extremely good cook. They can have a tremendous sensuality and appreciation for food and stuff like that. But they can almost be melodramatic, self-obsessed, or feels that in relationships, everyone has to look after them. Venus is also what? The planet of relationships. Also deals with business as well, but that's Karka. The main indicator is relationships of all kinds. When the moon is in the sign of Libra, it is similar, but it's different. What is here is that a person now, Libra is the masculine expression of Venus and is very much associated with business, trade, goods and services, and law. Yeah, matters of the law, matters of legality. So already, even though we know Santos is essentially a fraud, we can see, though, there is a strong placement here in regards to law, lawmakers, and lawmaking. Yeah, Libra is also this. It's not only trade, goods and services, and balance and relationships and marriage. It can be very political as well. It deals with lawyers, lawmakers, and judges. Yeah, he has now, of course, got himself up there in the Congress. You know, so he's now in one of the highest offices of the land. So it can give an interest in legalities and those things, but it can also make a person a bit indulgent and materialistic. Why? Because Venus, in her more lower vibration, she is a materialistic planet. Yeah? Her feminine expression, which is over here, yeah, up in Taurus, can create tremendous sensuality, tremendous want and desire for material goods. And we see here, look, he's got Jupiter here in an enemy sign and Venus in her own sign. That's very powerful. So here, the Venusian qualities are quite activated. But what is Pluto? Pluto deals with what? Corruption, fascism, yeah? Wasn't he making one of these kind of thingy-majig signs or whatever, one of these far-right signs? I saw it, there was a photograph of it, of him in Congress making this thing from the far right. Pluto can deal with corruption, the underbelly, the swamp, yeah? One of the reasons why we're seeing such tumult in governments around the world, Saturn is, if we look here where it says TR transit, this is where it transits, this is where the planets are right now. So we've got the Sun, Pluto, Venus, and Saturn all together in sidereal Capricorn. Pluto is going to be here for ages, for about 18 years. Yeah. Saturn is going to move out very soon in 2 days. Yeah. He's going to move into sidereal Aquarius. But Capricorn is also known as what? A sign of government, infrastructure, stuff like that. Pluto is what? The underbelly. Look what has been happening over the last couple of years. We're seeing all of this, what? Dark underbelly come out, corruption, fascism, people moving to the far right. I was just reading today in Israel, Netanyahu is trying to pass new legislations so that parliament can overturn the judiciary. 80,000 people have come out to protest. We've just seen an attempted coup attempt, or disruption of the government attempt. Where? In Brazil, pretty much orchestrated by Bolsonaro. Where did he get his tips from? Donald Trump. When Pluto moved into sidereal Capricorn, that happened on the 1st of January 2021. What happened a mere 5 days later? We had what? The insurrection. In Western astrology, remember, they're 24 degrees ahead. They're looking at a different part of sky. But here, Vedic astrology can deal with the tangible realities of Earth school, how it unfolds. Like I said, Pluto moved into sidereal Capricorn on the 1st of January 2021. Look what's happened since then. Insurrection, tumult in government all around the world, people moving to the right. fascism. Look, you know, I don't want to kind of critique, you know, Italy too much, but if you think they've got a more kind of far right government that's come in, even in Sweden, do you see this sweep around the world? Putin's war. Yeah, so, you know, like I said, Western astrology still works, and the distance and the ratio between the planets are the same. So Western astrology is very good for squares and oppositions, and they can arrive at the same conclusions that way, but they're often a sign ahead. With Vedic astrology, because it takes into account the movement of the stars, it's very concrete. When I've got an accurate birth time, which I don't have here, of course, but, you know, nonetheless, the planets, these are all still relevant because they wouldn't have moved far enough. The moon is also, can still be, even if I took the time of midnight, she would still be in the sign of Libra. So the moon is the fastest moving one. All the other planets wouldn't have moved fast enough. So here we see with, and that's why, like I said, Vedic astrology can be extraordinarily concrete. If you've not had the chance yet, check out my Merrick Garland video that I did. It's called DOJ and then Garland question mark question mark. I've posted it around a few places. Have a look at that, because so much of what I said there has come true, because we're all scratching our heads, aren't we, as to what is going on. So that video can explain, and there's some tarot in there as well. But going back to Santos, forgive my digression, it shows here that the mind has a tremendous lust and thirst for power. Yeah. It can also show a very strong karmic connection with the mother, but but also as well, it can show an obsessive personality. Now, look, this does happen. Yeah, it only takes the moon a month to go through the whole zodiac. So there's often a time when for 2.5 days out of a month, the moon will be conjunct Pluto at some point. It doesn't always necessarily produce that same effect, but here, you know, it kind of does. Yeah, because what we've already seen by his personality and his behavior. So what we have here is a very manipulative person. Yeah, Pluto also deals with the darkest of what humanity can do: coercion, manipulation, corruption, you know, theft. Yeah, this guy's pretty much a proven thief. Yeah, but it also shows a person can have a lust and desire for power. Yeah, power of all kinds. And where does he want to express that power? He wants to express it where? Libra, which again, legalities, judges. So this is someone that wants to change the balance, yeah, the scales of other people's lives, wants power and influence, particularly in a material sense as well, because this is happening in the second house, and the second house represents what? Repeat after me: security and money. So here we see this person has already a very strong imprint for materialistic desires and gains. Yeah. And obviously we can see this is someone that is prepared to steal and manipulate to get what he wants. He's been cashing in what? False checks. He's part of a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, so there's that. So you can see here the moon is being very influenced by Pluto. Also as well, we know that both parents are allegedly deceased. And the second house does also deal with family. Yeah, Pluto is what? God of the underworld. Pluto represents the 8th house on his own, and the 8th house are referred to as what? The house of sex, death, and rock and roll. It does deal with endings, yeah, stuff like that. So we can see with this happening in the second house, it can show, yes, there's intensity around the mother, but also as well, maybe the family have perished in some way. And that seems to be what's happened. If we skip here to the 4th house, again, which can also represent the mother, forgive, the screen has just gone funny again. In here, we see Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Oh my goodness, yeah? This, in many ways, is really where the big deception is. Saturn is a planet of government, yeah? Saturn is a planet of government. Distribution systems, rules, regulations of all kinds. Neptune, the shadow of Neptune. Now, Neptune, the virtue of it, because many of you watching might even have kids who were born in 1988 who will have this combination. The positive of it is of Neptune is spirituality. Yeah, spirituality, talents, musical and artistic gifts, particularly painting and yes, singing, music, that kind of stuff. Intuition. It's in the sign of Sagittarius, which is already a very spiritual sign. So this can create very adventurous types, sensitive types, etc., artistic, creative types. Yeah. However, the shadow of Neptune is what? Illusions and delusions, gaslighting, drink and drugs, lies, deceptions and scandals, fog, things not being clear. Yeah. If we look here next to it, in the middle is Uranus. What's Uranus? Uranus is sudden shocks and surprises, the liberation, innovation, the future, deals with strokes of genius, inventiveness of all kinds, technology, social media, all of that kind of stuff. Mercury, Rahu, and Uranus all deal with tech. Yeah, and this is very much the future. And then what's Saturn? Like I said, Saturn is rules, regulations, discipline, hard work, graft, the government. So when you put this all together, though, this is really quite a tricky combination because it sort of undermines the virtues of Saturn here. Why? Saturn is the steadfast. Saturn can be rebellious as well. He does have a rebellious side, but when we're talking about government here with Saturn, is to follow those rules and regulations, yeah, the proper procedures. However, Uranus is the rebel. Uranus will throw the rules out of the window. Uranian energy can also deal with anarchists and insurrectionists. Yes, it's similar energy, it's pretty much the same thing. Here, you have it next to Saturn, strongly influencing Saturn, because particularly when you look at the degrees, here Saturn is at 3 degrees 22 minutes, and here Uranus is at 4 degrees 7 minutes. My goodness. You know, they're only about half a degree apart. That is a very strong influence. That's what I call a perfection. Whenever a planet is a degree and a half for another planet, I call it perfection. It means their influence upon each other is very strong. It's as if they are blended. So here, Uranus is undermining the usual strength and following the rules energy of Saturn. Yeah. So here you've got the rule maker and the maverick. It's also said that Saturn actually castrated Uranus. Yeah. And Uranus is still not happy about it. Too long to explain. So there's that. But then this energy is also combined with the dissolving and deceptive nature of Neptune. Fourth house also deals with homeland. What many people overlook is that many politicians often have yes, the sun will be strong in some sense, but in many ways, it's actually more important to have planets in the fourth house, because the fourth house deals with the homeland, deals with education, knowledge, etc. What I've found is it can have a lot to do with politics, because politicians want to what? Influence their homeland. So here in DeSantis's heart chakra, sense of homeland, in the sign of Sagittarius, which remember deals with what? Politics. It's all starting to become quite clear, isn't it? Even though he's got this shady background, no one's really sure, you know, he's been court cases for not paying rent, been thrown out, suddenly money turns up, cashing in checks, stealing people's clothes. This guy, you can't even be sure if he owns the clothes that are on his back. Do you know what I mean? It's just astonishing. But here, when we see this fourth house, or it could be fourth house, placement here with this kind of bombastic combination, Saturn is giving the interest in the politics, the mechanisms of politics, the machinations, yeah, the details. Sagittarius, Jupiter is also giving that interest in politics, because Jupiter and Saturn are both political planets. But here, Uranus and Neptune are causing trouble. This is an unpredictable person, yeah, which has already been proved to be the case, you know, obviously a lot of this stuff is now water under the bridge, but we're going to discover more and more and more and more. This is also about shortcuts, doing things that are shocking, rebellious. And then here, Neptune is what? The deception, the lies. He's lied about almost absolutely everything. So it's this combination here of Neptune with Uranus, with Saturn in the sign of Sagittarius, which is also showing these things. Also as well, what is, oh, no, I'll save it for the book. It might be a little bit too controversial. Yeah, I'll share it. I'll share it. What's interesting here is now what we know, and now he said he's ish this, ish that, and he was married to a woman at one point, but he does say that that he's gay in his chart. He does say that he's in relationship with men and he's in relationship with a man, I think right now, has got a husband or something like that. I would say from his chart on this aspect, he is telling the truth. Why? Now, this is going to be really controversial. And I was supposed to save it for a book. Members, let me know what your thoughts are. But believe it or not, there are gay parts of Sky. I kid you not. I kid you not. There's deep. I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of charts now, and it is very, very consistent. Now, does it mean if you've got one or two planets in, Gemini or Sagittarius, that a person will be gay? No, not necessarily. But if there are factors that build up, then one can see such things. So look, if we look here he is. He's got Mercury in his own sign. Actually, that's very strong in the sign of Gemini. Gemini is the most curious sign of the zodiac. It's extremely intelligent and clever and witty, but it's also it's very curious and kind of neutral. Yeah. So the Gemini quotient will be more curious about other potential experiences and partners. Yeah. So that's a lot to do with curiosity, but also as well, there can be elements as well within the nakshatras as well. But if we look here, Sagittarius, which is, it's known as a male sign. But if we look here, two of these planets are in the nakshatra called Mula. Now, Mula can also have a streak where for males, not so much for women, but for males, that can make them more interested in the same sex, because there's an element within Mula that is known as the rejection of the breast. I kid you not. But also as well, Uranus, Uranus is what I found is also has this gender fluidity. That's the better word. Uranus has a gender fluidity. So Uranus can deal with anyone that's outside of the norm. So it can also deal with genius, deals with geniuses, can deal with autism, stuff like that as well, can also deal with transgender as well. Now, I kid you not, I have seen this time and time again. And that's just reminded me, Santos was just talking about something, if you're transgender, he said, what, join the GOP, which is quite a curious home for the transgender movement to be. But anyway, these are words that have come out of his own mouth. But why? Why do I associate Uranus with transgender? Again, it goes back to that castration. Saturn, Uranus is the sky god. Saturn was his son, one of the Titans. Gaia was Saturn's mother. According to Greek mythology, Uranus, the sky god, was always mating with his mother. The mother got tired and she said, you know what? I want you to cut off daddy's dangly bits. Yeah. So if we look here, let's not forget the glyph for Saturn is what? A scythe. It's sharp. So daddy came down to make love with mummy. Saturn jumped out, grabbed the tackle, went like that, chopped it off, threw it into the sea, and from that we got the birth of Aphrodite. This is why it said, wherever Saturn looks at Venus, his heart melts. He starves every planet he's with, even with his friends, Mercury and Venus, but with Venus, he finds it hard to do so. He always gives her some crumbs, yeah? So here we've got Saturn, remember I said, which is a gender-neutral planet, with Uranus, which is gender fluid and deals with mavericks and those that are unusual. And also as well, you've got Neptune here, which is blurring and blending all of those things together. And 2 out of 3 of these planets are in the nakshatra of Mula, but also as well, what is the word? What's the word? The mutable signs are more curious. So the more that a person has planets in mutable signs, it can increase their spirituality and their sensitivity and their intuition and their creativity, but it can also make them more interested as well in different types of relationships. So it's not always just same-sex relationships, but there is a curiosity which can be, you know, for the same or the other or things in between. So, but when we look at George Santos's chart, there is a strong indicator there. And also as well, when we look at his Mars, which is a male planet, Mars is in the feminine sign. That is often the clincher, actually, when you have male planets in feminine signs. And it's, again, it's never when it's just one, all the factors have to add up. But here, this proves my point. Here's Mars. Remember I said male planet in the feminine sign of Pisces, yeah, which is mutable, curious, diffuse. Here, Jupiter, another planet, is here in the sign of Taurus, earth sign. All earth signs are feminine. Earth signs and water signs are feminine. Fire signs and air signs are masculine. So here, another male planet in a female sign. And if we look, the sun here is in the sign of Cancer. Cancer belongs to the moon. Cancer is a feminine sign. So do you see here, all of the planets here are in feminine signs. And then many of them are also in curious signs as well. So when you stitch it up all together, yeah, I think on that matter, he's telling the truth. Also, I found some interesting stuff for Macron as well. But again, that will be a different. I could get myself into so much trouble here, but I just thought I would share that with you guys, you know, because it's just something that I've seen, which is so consistent. Again, it varies from person to person, but there's strong indicators here. So at least on that, on his sexuality, I think he is telling the truth. Everything else, my God, take with a pinch of salt and then some. So here we can see that mischievousness, that maverick quality, influencing Saturn with that Neptunian deceptions and stuff like that. Here also as well, we see here, if he is a Virgo rising, that puts Mars in the 7th house, yeah? And that deals with relationships in the outside world and stuff like that. Now, we have to take this with a pinch of salt because we can't be sure, pardon me, of the ascendant. But if it were the case, it would also indicate what? A male partner, yeah? Mars is a male planet in the 7th house. Yeah, it can indicate a male partner, particularly if the person is male. It's there with Ceres, which deals with devotion. Yeah, a mother's love for something, but it's more than just more that kind of fluffy stuff. Ceres also deals, I found, with matriarchal energy. So great grandmother, grandmother, daughter, granddaughter energy. Yeah, here. But it can also show great love and devotion for things, but it also represents the theft of Persephone. So what I found is wherever Ceres is, there can be a fear of losing something or trying to get something back. Yeah. So this is quite interesting in terms of the 7th house also deals with the outside world, anyone that's not us, how we relate to the outside world. He's got Mars here, the spiritual warrior, but look, the sign is Pisces. Now remember, Pisces again has got that energy of Neptune. Neptune is the co-ruler of Pisces. So there is this kind of diffuse relationship with the outside world. Also as well, Virgos, if he is indeed a Virgo ascendant, often sometimes can have unrealistic expectations from their relationships and the outside world, or present as something different to what people expect. Because what it can be with Virgos, now Virgo energy is very diligent and hardworking and all of that kind of stuff. But for the Virgo ascendant, it can show sometimes there can be fantasies or illusions or delusions about the outside world, how they interact, who they mix with. They may not necessarily see things clearly. This is often why Virgos can sometimes often be burnt in relationships, or they have unrealistic expectations, or they can be easily swayed and influenced as well. Santos is obviously someone that is very, easily influenced because he's been under the influence of, who knows? But there's definitely a male influence here. People that he has vested interests with and is quite devoted to, but we may not necessarily know who those characters are. If we look here, he's got 2 planets in the 9th house. Again, if this is correct, what's the 9th house? Politics. Yeah, politics comes back again. He's got Venus in its own sign. Now, there's something funny here. Now, it doesn't only give a great appreciation for the arts and food and luxuries and stuff, which obviously he's prepared to steal. Apparently, he was wearing his friend's scarf that he stole to one of these rallies. I mean, Burberry scarf. Well, even is. Taurus, the shadow of now. Taurus is a wonderful sign. I call it the Gaia portion, but the shadow of Taurus can be excessive materialism. Donald Trump, for example, his sun sign, according to Vedic astrology, is also in what? Taurus, not Gemini. Yeah. So if we look here, Venus is very strong, but Jupiter, which deals with our values, deals with our spirituality, deals with laws and rules and regulations, etc., that kind of stuff. Expansion, wealth, money. Technically, Jupiter here is in an enemy sign. When Jupiter is in the sign of Taurus in particular, it can create, the shadow of it is excessive materialism. Yeah, and almost addiction to food as well. Jupiter and Venus, along with the moon, are foodie planets. Yeah, foodie planets. Whenever you see these planets together or aspecting each other, but particularly when they're together, it can make a person a foodie. Taurus is the sign of food. And look, I don't want to make jibes, but let's just say Santos doesn't look like the slimmest person in the world. Yeah, I don't think he's eating lettuce for breakfast. Let's just put it that way. So you can see that there, but also can show an excessive sensuality as well. The sensuality might be too strong. Now I'm going to tell you something funny here that you wouldn't necessarily be expecting me to say. Venus is the planet of resuscitation, rejuvenation. She's often referred to as the nurse of the zodiac, sometimes the waitress of the zodiac. But guess what? When Venus is strong, when she's in her own signs, Taurus, Libra, exalted in Pisces, even in Gemini, Aquarius and Capricorn, not so much in Virgo, but particularly when she's in her own signs or exalted, Venus can give the gift of prophecy. And you'll probably be thinking, oh my God, he doesn't have those qualities and all of that kind of stuff. Let me tell you something. To be an effective crook, you need a strong intuition. I've seen it time and time again. The crooks that are able to evade capture, they have a strong intuition. Now, in a way, he's kind of being caught, but you see, he kind of hasn't. Because I was just looking that, they've dropped all of these things for him to, resign and whatnot, this, that, and the other, because he's essentially got himself there. And because the American politics now is so utterly corrupt. For now, he's being allowed to stick around. Yeah. So, but what is that to be a good con person, you need a good intuition. You need to be able to say what people want to hear. And that can actually be how, in the negative sense, that Venus can be used. Yeah, that Venus can be used. Venus is a wonderful planet, but in Vedic astrology, she's the teacher of the demons. Yeah, not in the sense as we understand it in the West, but it's more about desire. Yeah, Venus is a planet of desires, but when she's in the sign of Taurus, there's this extra sensuality. The materialistic side of Venus can become very stimulated. But here, because Jupiter is here and Jupiter and Venus are not friends, what it does is it affects the moral values. It can affect the moral values of a person, because Jupiter also deals in moral values. And if he's compromised in the sign of Taurus, that means that person has got values of materialism, and it's just a bit excessive and over the top. However, though, the 9th house does deal with politics, travel, aviation, learning, rules and laws and lawmakers and stuff. So you see here by his 9th house and his 2nd house, this is strongly emphasized. Plus he's got this stellium here in his 4th house, homeland, like I said, which also deals with politics in the sign of Sagittarius. Some people count a stellium as 4 planets or more, but I found 3 actually does the trick. 3 or more actually does the trick. If we look here, his sun is in the sign of Cancer, again, which also can deal with homeland and stuff like that. Domesticity, domestic politics, but the sun is here in the nakshatra called Pushya, which actually is a very auspicious nakshatra. But if we look here, it's in the 11th house, which deals with friends. Yeah, friends. The 11th house, like with when I was talking about Merrick Garland's chart, can deal with powerful and influential friends. This, of course, is a big reason of why he's got to where he is now. What we've got to understand is that the universe is not biased. It doesn't look at good friends or bad friends. It says friends. Yeah. So here, and of course, if this is truly his 11th house, the sun also as well deals with what? Leaders, CEOs, deals with government. Again, people who are in positions of power. So he does have, if this is correct, the support of powerful and influential people. Of course he does. How else did, a nobody sociopath manage to rise to such level? Here, his moon is showing the ambition. His 4th house in his heart is showing the cunning and the deception. But the sun here in the sign of Cancer in the 11th house is also showing those that have been willing to help him. If we look here as well, he's got Mercury in its own sign. Now, Mercury is a very intelligent planet. You might think, oh my God, George Santos is not intelligent. He actually is. He's a con man. Yeah. Mercury is very clever, very witty, excellent with speech. Yeah, Mercury is the planet of speech. When a person's got a strong Mercury, they'll have excellent fluid speech. They'll be very clever with words. Yeah, clever with words. The mind will be quick. But what's the shadow of Mercury? Yeah, or Hermes, as he's known in Greek mythology. The shadow is what? The trickster. It's not always about tricks. It's not always about shadow. It's also the comedian as well. But the shadow of it can be the trickster. So here we see someone with a pronounced ability to trick. Here we see Chiron, the wounded healer. And what I found is in the D1 chart, Chiron can show where we've potentially received a wound in life. It could be mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, or financial, or sometimes a combination of all those things. Here it's in his 10th house. Now you might be thinking, oh, now he's in Congress, but think of the wounds that he's been receiving. Yeah, because the 10th house is the public. But it also shows as well the failures and the difficulties he's had in his career up until this point. He was only earning a very modest salary, whatever. Nothing's wrong with that, of course. But due to his friends, he went, and this is a guy that was being evicted for not being able to pay his rent, etc., stuff like that. So it's showing that there's issues with cash flow, with the career, his job. He did what? He lied about his resume, because he felt inferior, insecure. Why else would you lie about these things? Because he didn't have the genuine experience. So you see, Chiron in the 10th house can show a sense of wounding when it comes to one's career in some way. The positive manifestation of that would be healing others via one's career, transforming one's pain and difficulties and struggles into gold and spreading that out to other people. That is a wonderful use of the Chiron. Or in the negative here, because we are talking about GOP, it can be that element of being so wounded and feeling so inferior that one lies about one's standing. So, but the thing is, even though it's all been exposed, he's so shameless, he's so desperate for the position, and he's probably been assured by his friends that he'll be protected. That's why he's decided not to resign. So in a way, his philosophy is like, fake it till you make it. And in his case, it seems like, and it's really sad, but it seems like it's paying off for him. Until there is a more moral high ground that can happen where these people are not allowed across the threshold, you know, so far lying works, and he's got a very strong ability to do that. He's able to be very friendly and very sweet. Yeah, Mercury can also be very sweet. He's a natural benefic, but it depends on who he's with. Yeah. But Mercury in its own sign can make someone give the gift of the gab. And because he's got this Venusian intuition, he can put on this very sweet facade. Have you noticed he's got this very soft exterior? I mean, he's absolutely wicked, but he has this very soft, quite disarming exterior of sweetness. But it's not really sweet. It's manipulative. This is the guy that was, you know, cashing dead man's checks that his mother was looking after. He died, and he was cashing the checks and trying to buy what? Shoes and clothes and live some kind of high life, stealing from his friends and everything like that. So this is someone that has that trickster quality, that is able to manipulate others quite easily, because he's got this disarming, quite youthful look. I mean, he's only 34, if his age is right. So you know, he's still quite young, but there is this, he can disarm people with a certain sweetness, feigned curiosity. Yeah. And this is why he was also able to deceive everyone. He should never have been allowed across the threshold. Pardon me. We are dealing with someone who is highly manipulative, particularly as well. Let's go back and look at that Moon and Pluto. He's obsessed with power. Now he's got it. Of course, he's going to do everything he can to hold on to it. If we look at the nodes of the Moon, Rahu is in the sign of Aquarius, and Ketu is in the sign of Leo. Leo, again, also deals with leadership of all kinds, but the nakshatras are very interesting. If we look here, he's got Rahu in Aquarius. Now, Aquarius actually is a very complex sign. It has 3 rulers. Saturn is the original ruler. Uranus is the modern day ruler, and Rahu is also one of the ancient rulers. He's got Rahu in its own sign, very powerful. But let's not forget, Rahu can also be very materialistic as well, very materialistic, but very cunning and clever. So his Rahu is very strong. Rahu is the manifest point of destiny, the things that we want to gravitate towards in this lifetime. And if we look here, he's got his Rahu in Aquarius, which deals with community. Yeah. Aquarius and Leo have a lot to do with politics. Yeah. Because why? Aquarius deals with what? The collective, the oi polloi, the masses, everyone under the sun. That's why it's often referred to as other people's children. It deals with the collective, communities of all kinds. Groups and organizations, aviation, even distribution system. Here, though, Ketu deals with what? Well, here Leo deals with what? Leadership, CEOs, all of that stuff. So, of course, you put that together, you know, this is someone that's going to be very interested in what? Politics, affecting the masses, etc. If we look here, his Ketu is in a nakshatra, which is called Purva Falguni. Now, Purva Falguni is sub-ruled by Venus. Purva Falguni is one of the most creative of all the nakshatras. Famously, Madonna's got a thing here. You just see it time and time again. Actors, performers, entertainers. Can't remember someone was saying, but someone was saying he probably should have been in the entertainment world, and in a way he sort of is, because this is what politics has become. It's become much more about acting now, isn't it? It's much more about performance, playing out a role rather than actually delivering policy. So in this modern context, you know, that kind of suits him very well. But guess what? The shadow of Purva Falguni, which is a nice nakshatra, by the way, it does have a very lazy streak. So here we have a person who is lazy, because he's obviously in the shadow. Ketu is like a vortex where you have to pour money and energy into stuff. So he doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to do the graft. He doesn't want to do the work. He just wants to, yeah, give it to me. Give it to me. He'd rather steal than earn his own stuff, which, of course, we have seen. 12th house also deals with secrets, yeah, bed pleasures. It deals with hidden things. It can also deal with addictions and scandals and stuff like that. Wouldn't surprise me if it turns out he's got some funny addiction to something or someone or what have you. But it also deals with a land far, far away. So this is someone who wants to luxuriate in bed. He wants wonderful sheets and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying those are bad things, but when you put it all together, we're dealing with quite a self-indulgent person. Rahu, though, is giving the cunning, yeah, the ability to deceive. The shadow of Rahu is liars, psychopaths, sociopaths. Yeah, people that will just throw you under the bus to get what they want. We have seen this already. His Rahu is extremely strong, and it's in the sign of Aquarius, which is dealing what? With the collective. What did he do? He defrauded the people of New York and his community. Yeah, the local people. He was born in Queens, but he won in the local district, whatever. And that's what Aquarius deals with the collective, family, voting groups, large groups of people. So when we put it all together, we can see all of this stuff. What I would say is this, we're not going to look at the Navamsha because, of course, I don't have an accurate birth time, and the moon could be very easily in another place and stuff like that. This can change every 10 minutes. So, but when we look at the main placements here, I think we've seen enough. So when we look at that, unfortunately, getting rid of this guy is actually going to be quite difficult. Especially as he's been allowed to cross the threshold. He's a parasite. He should never, again, for entertainment purposes only, but he should never have been allowed to cross the threshold. Everything was known about him, and the GOP, he was actually told that he should stop. He didn't stop. Obviously, he had that rabid determination. Now he's in there. It's going to be difficult to get him out. And it seems like, and in time, what's going to happen? People are going to get used to him. He's going to stick around. He's going to be voting on this and that. And as time goes along, his position is going to seem more and more legitimate, unfortunately. Hopefully he can be removed. But if he is, it's not going to be easily done. This is someone who's highly manipulative and has a lot of backers, and he's got immense cunning here as well. And he's probably going to do a lot of injury, yeah, or he already has done a lot of injury to the standing, yeah, of his office. 10th house deals with high office, stuff like that. And Chiron is here, so yeah, it's gonna bring a lot of damage, unfortunately. Hopefully, at some point, people might be able to get rid of him, but it has to be sooner rather than later. All right, so I'm going to stop my share there. I'm hoping that the camera is going to come back for me. Oh, look, I'm still Andy Warhol. Sorry about this, guys. Oh, there we are. I've come back at last. So I'm going to end it there. I hope you found that interesting. Hopefully the video will automatically end on the other side, because I did set up the first ones, but I hope you found that interesting. I might release that to the public at some point. But dear members, do let me know what your thoughts are in regards to that video. Very interesting, eh? And don't forget, check out that Merrick Garland video that I've got searched through. I've also posted it in the community tab, pinned it to the last Hogely in the comments, pinned it up there with a link. Have a look. All right, I will leave it there for now. Look at that. It's almost 11:30 now. Took me. Anyway, enough. I will leave it there until the next time, folks. All right, bye-bye for now. Cheers.